What if a fleeting lapse in strength unveiled a perilous secret? One that jeopardized everything you had painstakingly constructed? That night, I transcended the mere act of unlocking a door. I opened a Pandora's box. As my stepson stepped in, the truth I had kept hidden was ready to alter the trajectory of our lives forever. This is not merely a mistake, it is a looming catastrophe waiting to unfold. I invite you to subscribe to my channel for more enthralling true stories such as this one. Moreover, be sure to watch the entire video and give it a thumbs up, for this tale is sure to captivate you. Kindly tap the like button to show your support. To my surprise, I found myself alone in the stillness of the night, unaware that anyone would be there. Silence enveloped the house. As I filled my glass with deep, crimson wine, the soft illumination from a few scattered lamps created a cozy ambience, while the gentle patter of rain against the windows added a soothing backdrop. I settled into the comforting solitude of my chamber, a rare indulgence in these times. Loneliness has a way of sneaking up on us, doesn't it? Aaron, my partner, had departed. I found myself on yet another of his business trips, a routine I had grown used to. Yet this time, the feeling of loneliness was more profound. I found myself in a state of unease, a tension within me that defied precise explanation. An ache lingered, impervious to the soothing balm of self-control, prompting me to make a clandestine choice, an attempt to bridge the void, if only for a fleeting moment. As I began my task, a subtle sound drifted in from beyond my door. Initially, I attributed the sound to the wind rattling the time-worn structure or the familiar creaks of the house adjusting, as was its custom. Yet the noise returned once more. My heart raced. Yet I reassured myself it was merely a fleeting sensation. Dominic, my stepson, had casually mentioned plans to go out with friends earlier, and I had no expectation of his swift return. Yet, I found myself frozen in place when I heard his soft yet near voice. Bella? Is everything okay in there? A wave of panic washed over me. The chamber was shrouded in darkness, illuminated only by the faint flicker of the television's glow. I grasped the remote, yearning to silence the chaos. Yet my hands faltered, trembling with a sense of urgency. The noise, the unmistakable and damning noise, echoed with a volume greater than before. Bella's voice emerged once more. Nearer now. Just as I struggled to muster the words to dismiss him, the door let out a soft creak as it opened. I failed to secure it. In the doorway, he stood, his eyes alight with disbelief. For a moment, we remained still, caught in a tangle of disbelief and embarrassment. I find myself uncertain about what I anticipated from him. Shall we look the other way? Instead of laughter or a sharp retort, his expression revealed something entirely unexpected. A sense of curiosity stirred within me, accompanied by a nagging suspicion that something was not quite right. He stammered, darting his gaze between me and the screen before making a hasty retreat. It was not within my control that I faltered. Its sole manifestation is my visage. Heat radiated from my cheeks as I fumbled for an excuse. Yet the right words eluded me. The atmosphere in the room was thick with tension, resembling a delicate thread stretched to its limits, on the verge of snapping. At last, he cleared his throat and murmured, "I will let you. I suppose it's time for me to take my leave." Yet, he chose not to. He hesitated, holding on for just a moment longer. as if the pull of the moment was too strong to resist. And then, in an instant, everything shifted. It transcended mere humiliation or awkwardness. The stillness enveloped everything. As the door clicked shut behind me, solitude enveloped my being. And I realized that the echoes of our shared moments would linger in both our minds, indelibly etched in memory. I lingered in silence, the wineglass cradled in my hand, my heart pounding in my chest. Not from fear, but from a more profound sensation, one I hesitated to name. That night, I reassured myself it was merely a mistake, a fleeting error. Yet deep down, I understood the truth. Some paths are unchangeable, and Dominic's journey back home was merely the start. I expected to encounter the same reserved, distant young man I had known when Aaron and I tied the knot years ago. But at 25, he was no longer a boy. He exuded a quiet confidence now, an effortless charm that had eluded my notice until he fully embraced his true self. Even as I admonished myself for finding it improper to pay attention to such matters, a subtle awareness would wash over me each time he entered the room. The realization lingered in my mind following our initial meeting. It wasn't merely the embarrassment of being discovered in such a delicate moment, it was the look in his eyes, the intrigue, the way he hesitated, as if what he had witnessed both captivated and unsettled him. I steered clear of him for the next few days, retreating to the kitchen at the sound of his footsteps or pretending to be occupied in the yard. Yet Dominic was determined to close the gap of unease between us. As the sun dipped below the horizon, he rapped gently on the kitchen door, interrupting my quiet moment at the sink, where I was lost in the rhythm of washing dishes. "Greetings?" he whispered, casually leaning against the doorframe. "I had no intention of instilling fear in you. Last night, I found myself entranced by the frothy bubbles in the warm water. A delightful diversion from reality. That is perfectly fine. The door should have been locked by me." "There's no need for an explanation," he responded quickly. "Indeed. Every individual is entitled to their own privacy." A moment of stillness hung in the air before he spoke. "Yet you seemed unsettled. Are you all right?" The inquiry caught me by surprise. Years had passed since anyone had posed that question to me, their curiosity about my answer palpable and sincere. Aaron often found himself consumed by his work, and I had long since mastered the art of concealing my feelings beneath the veneer of an ideal spouse. "I am well. I regret my sudden remark," which I subsequently tempered. "I appreciate your inquiry." He inclined his head, yet remained still. His presence enveloped the small kitchen, and I sensed a shift in the atmosphere, electrified by an unvoiced tension. The tension lingered, coiling around us in subtle, insidious ways, refusing to dissipate. In the ensuing fortnight, Dominic and I cultivated an unusual cadence. He exhibited a level of attentiveness that surpassed anything Aaron had ever shown. He had extended his hand to help with small tasks like carrying in the groceries, mending a leaky faucet, or just sharing a quiet moment on the porch as the sun dipped below the horizon. Sipping a bottle of wine on the back deck, he startled me with an unexpected question. "Do you ever find yourself feeling lonely, Bella?" With the glass poised midway to my lips, I found myself in a moment of uncertainty. "Could you clarify what you mean?" "Aaron often vanishes, leaving you with few companions for conversation." His remarks ignited an emotion within me that I had not recognized before. "That is not true," I muttered defensively. shrugging off his steady gaze. "I want you to know that I'm here for you. Whether you feel like chatting or prefer some quiet time." His candor was captivating. It was not pity, but a deep sense of understanding. Once more. It happened in the stillness of the night. As I descended the stairs in search of a glass of water, I stumbled upon Dominic, ensconced in the living room, illuminated by the flickering glow of the television. As I approached, he lifted his gaze, and a gentle warmth spread across his face upon recognizing me. "Sleep eluded me?" he inquired. I shook my head, unwilling to join myself on this journey. After a moment of uncertainty, I finally sank into the chair opposite him, enveloped by the silence that surrounded us. The distance that once enveloped us in ease began to shift when he switched off the television, leaning in closer, his elbows finding a perch on his knees. He began to recount the events of the other night, his voice barely above a whisper, and I felt a tension rise within me. "Dominic, a conversation is unnecessary." He recognized that maybe a conversation isn't necessary. Yet I find myself unable to stop pondering it. Dominic rose and traversed the room, settling on the edge of the coffee table mere inches from me, making my breath catch in my throat. "I'm not attempting to unsettle you," he pressed on, his voice a mere murmur. "Yet I sense you share the same feeling." The gravity of his words lingers in the air, undeniable and profound. I parted my lips to protest, to assert that he was wrong. Yet the truth turned against me. I could no longer refute the truth. It was on that night that our paths first crossed. The path taken was spontaneous and devoid of reason. Yet it was inescapable. The subsequent days unfolded in a whirlwind of fleeting encounters and hushed vows. We deluded ourselves into believing that our connection was nothing more than a transient escapade, a stopgap to alleviate the void within us. Yet, as the moments we shared multiplied, it became ever more difficult to uphold the pretense that it was anything less than something profound. Dominic stirred a thrill within me that I hadn't experienced in years. He rendered me seen, vibrant, and yearned for. Yet with every subtle caress and lingering look, the stakes grew higher. Aaron's return was just weeks away, and though we treaded carefully, the weight of our secret started to wear on us both. As we returned from a serene outing to a nearby park, an unexpected visitor, Alice Dominic, caught us off guard one afternoon. There she was, my ex-girlfriend, poised on the front porch with her arms crossed, a playful smirk dancing on her lips. "Dominic," she drawled. "It has been quite a while since we last crossed paths." Her eyes held on to me. A moment stretched in silence. In that fleeting moment, an unsettling chill crept down my spine. "Alice," Dominic asked, his voice devoid of any inflection, "what brings you to this place?" "Oh, I thought I'd quit," she remarked with a cheerful demeanor, though her expression betrayed deeper intentions. "You have been on my mind quite a bit lately." Her gaze flitted between us as she spoke, and I sensed she understood that this marked the onset of our disintegration. Alice's presence emerged as an unforeseen threat, her cleverness cutting deeper than we had anticipated. She possessed an uncanny ability to delve into subjects that held no allure for her. And it wasn't long before she started posing questions that neither Dominic nor I were eager to address. With the stakes rising, my anxiety surged as I endeavored to maintain the facade of an ordinary life. Fissures started to emerge. Alice's return had thrown everything into disarray. Equilibrium, Alice insisted her visit was unplanned. Yet every word she spoke seemed meticulously crafted. Each time her eyes met mine, they seemed to pause on Dominic for just a heartbeat longer, as she believed I was oblivious. Her smile carried a sharpness that hinted at something unsettling. Yet Dominic and I endeavored to proceed as though her disturbance had not touched us. We convinced ourselves that she was merely a distraction, a ghost from his past, devoid of any impact on the bond we were nurturing. Yet, her presence lingered in my mind, an incessant ache. A week later, Aaron reached out to share the news. Aaron found himself extending the duration of his business trip. His voice echoed with a certain detachment, prioritizing the task at hand over the presence of the woman. At home, she waited for him. And he added, "I'll be back in 2 or 3 weeks." I suggested he look after himself, almost as an afterthought. With a calm and measured tone, a deep sense of remorse stirred within me. As darkness fell, a tempest descended upon the land. The rain cascaded in relentless torrents, drumming against the roof and windows with a fervent intensity. The distant rumble of thunder echoed ominously, as a flash of electricity danced momentarily before plunging everything into darkness. Having enveloped the house in darkness, I ignited a few candles and sought solace in the pages of a book. Yet, my tranquility was shattered when Dominic's voice echoed from downstairs, sending a jolt through my already frayed nerves. "Bella, are you all right up there?" "There. I am well." I returned the call, carefully navigating my surroundings to avoid any missteps moments later. The beam of his flashlight illuminated the staircase as he ascended to join me in the power company. It was mentioned that it could take a few hours. He asked, "Do you mind if I stay up here for a while?" For a moment, I paused. "Of course. If you're okay with the candles." He smiled broadly. Rather than being isolated in the shadows, we found ourselves on the living room floor, wrapped in a blanket while the tempest howled beyond the walls. Dominic retrieved a bottle of whiskey from the kitchen, and we passed it back and forth, letting its warmth wash over us and dispel the lingering chill. Have you ever contemplated what your life might look like if you weren't in this very moment? He inquired abruptly. A frown creased my brow. "What do you mean by saying that if you hadn't married Aaron? You wouldn't be stuck in this house all the time?" I was taken aback by the question, even as I expressed myself with a sense of emptiness. I remained unencumbered. Dominic arched an eyebrow. "Are you not Aaron? Your presence is always absent. Do not appear content." I find myself at a loss. "You truly merit so much more than what you have been given." He infused his voice with a gentle softness. His words twisted my heart. I felt the urge to set him straight, to convey that I was entirely satisfied. Yet, as I parted my lips, the truth flowed forth. I find myself at a loss for what my next steps might be. At times, I ponder the alternate paths my life might have taken had I chosen differently. Yet, is it truly significant? What is my existence? Dominic leaned in, his gaze a blend of tenderness and fervor. It need not be. The atmosphere surrounding us was thick, brimming with the kind of tension that had been quietly building for weeks. I ought to have put an end to it. His hand brushing against mine was meant to pull me closer. Yet I found myself willingly surrendering to its allure. I did not retreat. In the days that ensued, our pilfered instances grew bolder. Dominic and I crafted reasons to venture out together. a jaunt to the farmer's market here, and an expedition along a hidden trail. The excitement of our union transcended mere exhilaration. It was the way he gazed at me as if I were his entire world. He listened intently as I spoke, igniting a sense of vitality within me that had long been dormant. On a serene afternoon, we found ourselves at a tranquil cafe nestled on the outskirts of town. The establishment was almost devoid of patrons, and we settled into a booth nestled in the corner, our knees gently touching beneath the table. It seems as though I am merely a spectator in someone else's existence, I remarked, as I stirred my coffee with a distracted air. Dominic leaned in slightly, his gaze fixed intently upon me. What leads you to that conclusion? I spoke softly. This does not reflect my true self. I don't typically find myself in situations like this. He extended his hand across the table, enveloping mine with a gentle touch. Perhaps you are. Or perhaps this realization has only just dawned upon you. My heart yearned to trust his words. Alice had not lost hope in us. Dominic assured her that we were family and that nothing significant was unfolding. One evening, while making my way back from the grocery store, I stumbled upon her car parked outside the house. I entered to discover her in the living room alongside Dominic. Her voice carried a sharp accusation. "You are not being truthful," she remarked. "I can see it written all over your face. Alice, your behavior is quite absurd." Dominic's voice was steady and resolute, and her eyes locked onto mine as I entered the room. "This aspect does not belong to you. What's happening between the two of you?" I compelled myself to remain. "Steady yourself. Alice, this situation calls for a more fitting response." "Oh, I believe it's quite fitting," she remarked, her tone laced with malice. "Do you really believe I'm unaware of the situation at hand? Your glances toward one another have not gone unnoticed. Do you genuinely believe you can maintain this as a secret?" My heart raced, yet I was determined not to reveal any sign of weakness to her. "You are mistaken," I stated with calm resolve. "And I believe it is time for you to take your leave." Alice's smile cut through the air, sharp and frigid. "Ah, I may depart. But mark my words. This is far from finished." Once Alice departed, Dominic and I remained enveloped in silence. The atmosphere in the room crackled with an almost suffocating tension. She understands that my voice was little more than a whisper. "She doesn't have proof," Dominic replied, though his tone suggested a lingering doubt about its significance. I mentioned that she won't be letting this slip away easily. Luke extended his hand toward mine. "Together, we shall unravel the solution." His words wrapped around me like a warm blanket. Yet the burden of guilt pressed down with increasing intensity. With each passing day, every glimpse of Aaron's face on a video call, every reflection on the life I was putting at stake, the justification for our actions grew increasingly elusive. And yet, I found myself unable to dispel the shadow of Alice's threat, which hung over us like a looming storm cloud. Though she lacked tangible evidence, her keen instincts and audacious spirit rendered her a formidable presence. Dominic, dear sweet Dominic, was convinced that by dismissing her, she would simply fade into the background. "It's merely conversation," he reassured me. One evening, he casually draped his arm over the back of the couch while we sat in close proximity. "It's not merely words," I retorted, pulling away from him. Her face remained unseen by you. As she departed, An unsettling certainty gripped her. Dominic was undoubtedly scheming to bring about our downfall. What amount do you expect me to settle with her? His frustration ignited. Yet it extinguished just as swiftly as it had emerged. I assure you, I will give her Bella. Yet, I remained unconvinced that Alice was not the sort to have been managed previously. Dominic found himself at a pivotal moment, ready to fulfill the vow he had made. Aaron arrived home early, 3 days before I did. As I stood in the kitchen, the sound of the front door creaking open reached my ears, accompanied by the unmistakable weight of his heavy footsteps. My stomach plummeted. Dominic occupied the upper floor, and though the house held no damning evidence, the mere closeness of the two men sent my heart racing. Bella Aaron's voice carried a rough edge, a testament to his recent journeys. I strained to keep my voice light, drying my hands on a dish towel as I faced Aaron, placing his suitcase by the door. His face bore a more weathered appearance than usual, the creases around his mouth more pronounced. I mentioned that you hadn't informed me of your early return. I navigated the meetings with surprising swiftness. His gaze swept across the room. Dominic's indirect inquiries caught me off guard, for Aaron had never before displayed any significant curiosity about Dominic's actions. I believe I mentioned with care, "He's upstairs." Aaron let out a low grunt as he filled a glass with water. The other day, as I called to check in, I noticed Alice's car parked out front. What is that all about? Even as my heart raced, I kept my expression carefully neutral. I failed to catch a glimpse of her. Perhaps she visited to have a conversation with Dominic. Aaron nodded, choosing not to delve deeper. Yet, the mere mention of Alice lingered unpleasantly on my palate. Alice reemerged one evening, just as Aaron was out attending to his errands. As I returned from my walk, I discovered her perched on the front porch, arms crossed, her eyes shimmering with a hint of malice. "We need to talk," she said, her voice unwavering, as if she were fully aware of her advantage. I contemplated turning a blind eye to her, yet the resolve in her posture made it clear that she would not depart without a clash. "What is it that you desire, Alice?" I inquired, striving to maintain a serene tone, and she responded with a smirk. Her candor was refreshing, and I valued the moment of silence before she declared, "I want Dominic." Her words cut through the air, unyielding and direct, and I sensed the underlying current of this. Irrespective of the dynamics between the two of you, she persisted, stating that it wouldn't endure. So why not make way for him to return to me? I chuckled with a hint of bitterness. Dominic is an adult, he possesses the ability to make his own choices. Her smile broadened. Naturally he can. But have you considered how Aaron might react if he discovered your little arrangement? Or how the rest of the world would respond for that matter? My throat constricted. You simply wouldn't. She leaned in, her voice softening to a mere whisper. A single text, a photograph in the wrong moment, a message sent in haste, and the carefully constructed facade of your perfect life can shatter. Under the cloak of darkness, I laid bare my soul to Dominic. We must put an end to her, I declared. If she confides in Aaron, it spells the end for us both. Dominic inclined his head, his jaw clenched tightly. I shall engage in conversation with her. She would come to understand. Yet upon his return from their meeting the following day, his complexion was ashen and his hands were tightly balled into fists. She stands her ground unwaveringly. He remarked on her yearning for a considerable sum of money, which sent a wave of unease through me. What is the cost? 50,000, he declared. She claims it is for her quietude. We can't give her that, I said, my footsteps echoing in the room as I paced back and forth. She will undoubtedly return for more. Dominic rose suddenly, his irritation reaching a breaking point. What would you recommend? Bella. I found myself grappling with a void of inspiration, unable to conjure a solution. In my moment of desperation, I sought solace in my dearest friend Claire. She had always possessed a keen intellect and remarkable resourcefulness. And while the thought of pulling her into this predicament filled me with dread, I found myself devoid of alternatives. As I revealed the truth to her, I noticed her eyes grow wide with disbelief. Bella, she said slowly, do you grasp the enormity of the challenges before you? I mentioned that I hadn't intended for this to occur. Emotion surged, and tears brimmed at the edges of my vision. It simply occurred. With a weary sigh, she pressed her fingers against her temples. All right. Let us ponder this carefully. Alice presents a challenge. Yet she is not without her vulnerabilities. Surely, there must be some leverage we can employ against her. It became evident that there was. Claire delved into Alice's history, revealing a path marked by unpaid debts and a recent encounter with the law. Equipped with this knowledge, we crafted a strategy to secure Alice's collaboration. The encounter unfolded in a neutral setting, a quaint coffee shop nestled on the outskirts of town. At a corner table, Claire and I sat in anticipation. The air was thick with anticipation. Upon Alice's arrival, she exuded an air of confidence, bordering on smugness. I'm flattered, she remarked, gracefully settling into the seat opposite us. I never imagined you would muster the courage to confront me. Your game has come to a close. Claire's voice filled the air as she gracefully pushed a folder across the table. Alice opened it, her expression wavering as she absorbed the contents within. Where did you acquire this? She demanded. That's not important, Claire remarked with an air of indifference. Your identity is essential to us. And should you continue down this path, we will not shy away from bringing this matter to light. Alice's confidence faltered. Yet she swiftly regained her composure. Do you believe this intimidates me? I might have expressed that I possess nothing to forfeit. Nevertheless, both Dominic and I have stakes in this matter. So let us be unequivocal. Should you choose to depart, we shall not pursue. We will locate you. But should you speak to Aaron or anyone else, we will unveil the truth. For a fleeting instant, I entertained the notion that she might challenge our ruse. Yet she rose, the folder firmly grasped in her hands. You'll regret this, she declared, before sweeping out in a fury. Alice's departure was expected to bring relief. Yet it instead unraveled a path of devastation. Dominic and I exercised caution like never before. Yet the repercussions loomed large and inescapable. Aaron started to perceive the underlying tension. His eyes held mine for an unusually extended moment. One evening, as we lounged in the living room, Aaron inquired, Is there something happening? No, I stated firmly. Why do you inquire so swiftly? He gave a slight shrug. Your recent distance is palpable. And there's a noticeable change in Dominic as well. I sincerely hope that all is well. In the days that followed Alice's departure, a heavy guilt lingered. pressing down relentlessly. Despite the outward calm that enveloped the town, Dominic and I maintained our separation during Aaron's time at home. Our conversations were sparse, each word measured, as we tread the delicate line of intimacy without revealing too much. Yet, the discomfort remained palpable. Signs of wear and tear were becoming evident. One evening, Aaron extended an invitation for dinner at a newly opened restaurant in town, a notable deviation from his typical workaholic ways. I concurred. Uncertainty clouded my thoughts. Was my anxiety rooted in the fear of leaving Dominic by himself? Or was it the exhausting charade of feigning normalcy with Aaron that truly troubled me? It seems to me that we have drifted away from each other. Aaron conversed with care as they shared the appetizers. I have frozen the glass of wine. He paused, swirling his drink thoughtfully. Perhaps it's the weight of work-related pressures, but it feels as though your heart has wandered to distant realms in recent times. A wave of guilt surged within me, yet I compelled myself to wear a smile. It seems you have had quite a lot on your plate, Aaron. Perhaps we should carve out more moments for one another. He nodded, yet his expression remained unchanged, shrouded in a veil of somberness. The moment of relief was fleeting. 2 days later, a package appeared in the mail, bearing Aaron's name on the label. Upon returning from my errands, I discovered it resting on the kitchen counter. The mere glimpse of Alice's handwriting on the envelope sent my heart into a freefall. I ripped it apart, with hands that quivered. I pulled forth a USB drive and a note from within. Perhaps you would enjoy observing the activities of your wife and son. The ramifications were unmistakable. A wave of panic washed over me as I hastily tucked the note and USB into my pocket. Had Aaron caught sight of it first? I dared not entertain the thoughts of what could have transpired. I promptly reached out to CLA. She continues to toy with the situation, I remarked, as I walked back and forth in the living room. I thought we scared her off, Claire said, her voice laced with frustration. And I shared the same sentiment. Do you believe Aaron caught a glimpse of it? No. I reached it before you, I replied. It must be obliterated. Whatever resides on that drive will vanish into the stillness of the night. When the house falls silent, I secluded myself in the study, connecting the USB to Aaron's computer. My hands shook as I sifted through the files, photos, and videos, each one holding the potential to shatter everything if Aaron were to discover them. In spite of my attempts to erase the files and obliterate the USB, Alice's resolve to bring about our downfall persisted with unwavering intensity. The following morning, I faced Dominic. She's still pursuing us, I said, my voice laced with anxiety. His expression grew somber. I will take care of it, I said, no, my voice steady and resolute. This must come to a definitive close. Dominic cast a glance my way, his jaw clenched with tension. What steps should we take to accomplish that? I confessed my uncertainty. Yet we cannot afford to linger any longer. In her pursuit, CLA once more delved into the depths of Alice's existence, unearthing hidden truths. In an unforeseen turn of events, she disclosed that Alice had encountered termination from her prior position due to embezzlement-related issues. Armed with this newfound knowledge, I crafted a daring scheme. Dominic and I set a time to meet. Alice found herself in a secluded motel on the outskirts of town, away from the watchful gaze of others. She made her entrance after the expected time, Alice entered the room with a self-satisfied grin, casually inquiring, "Miss me?" before letting her purse fall onto the bed. "We've concluded our gaming session," I declared, holding my ground. Her smirk wavered. "Oh. Is that so? How charming." Dominic advanced, his voice calm and unwavering. "We are aware of the funds you misappropriated from your previous employment." "We are aware." Though Alice's confidence faltered, she swiftly regained her composure. "What are your thoughts on this? Is there anyone who will truly believe you? You hold the stakes in this matter. Not I." I retrieved a folder filled with documents that CLA had compiled, bank statements, emails, and a signed complaint from Alice's previous employer. Alice's gaze sharpened as she seized the folder. She let out a sharp hiss. "This is coercion from my grasp. It's a powerful tool. I made a correction to your statement. Kindly give us some space. This shall remain our secret. However, should you attempt anything different, this will be forfeited." Upon encountering the police for the first time, Alice seemed truly unsettled. With a swift motion, she cast the folder onto the bed and exited, leaving silence in her wake. The sense of relief was fleeting. A week later, Aaron found me in the kitchen, ready to confront the unspoken tension between us. There's an unsettling feeling in the air. His tone was cold and accusatory as he spoke. He inquired, pretending not to know. "What is it that you are referring to?" He stated with unwavering directness. "I've observed the way his gaze lingers on you and the way your eyes meet his." A chill coursed through my veins. "Aaron, that's utterly absurd. Did he snap?" "I have my doubts about it. There seems to be something beneath the surface, and I seek the truth." The walls seemed to constrict, encircling me in a tightening embrace. "I have nothing to share," I murmured softly. Yet, Aaron remained unconvinced by my words. The weight of his accusation hung in the atmosphere, thick and suffocating. His gaze penetrated my own, probing for any fissure in my armor. Once more, I insisted, striving to keep my voice unwavering. "There's nothing happening. He is your son." How could you possibly believe that Aaron didn't blink? "I am certain of what I observe. Bella, please refrain from underestimating my intelligence." The oppressive atmosphere in the room made me, Richard, falter in my composure. I attempted to steer the dialogue, inquiring if there was something troubling you. "Let us engage in a discussion about it." Yet, hurling unfounded allegations into the air is utterly without foundation. His voice slices through the air like a finely honed blade. If that's the case, then why is Alice claiming something different? My stomach plummeted. "Alice." Aaron gave a decisive nod. She reached out to me, sharing truths that felt too heavy to accept. She claimed to possess evidence. With a deep inhalation, I gathered my thoughts. She feels a deep sense of sorrow over Dominic's decision to move on from their relationship. She seems intent on stirring up discord. Yet you assert that her narrative holds no weight. Our eyes locked in a silent exchange. Silence reigns. For a fleeting instant, I entertained the hope that he might trust my words. Yet he pivoted and exited the room in silence, leaving no further exchange in his wake. His complexion drains of color, and his movements become rigid. "What is happening?" he inquired, gently shutting the door behind him. Behind him. Aaron senses the weight of my words. My voice quaking with emotion. Alice must have reached him before we could intervene. Dominic perched on the edge of the bed. His hands balled into tight fists. What actions shall we take? I'm not sure I've confessed this. But if he discovers the truth, he'll find it hard to believe. Dominic declared with conviction. I won't allow him. Yet. I could perceive the trepidation reflected in his gaze. Echoing my own sentiments. The following evening, Aaron was adamant that we gather for dinner as a family. His request was unexpected, and the formality surrounding it set my nerves on edge. The three of us gathered around the dining table. The soft clink of silverware against plates punctuating the silence that stretched on. Until Dominic Aaron finally spoke up, shattering the stillness. How is the quest for employment unfolding? Startled, Dominic glanced upward and replied, Very well. I have been exploring several possibilities. Aaron inclined his head, his face a mask of inscrutability. It's heartening to hear that. I found myself pondering if you truly meant to make this place your permanent home. Dominic tensed at the sharp remark. I'm not obstructing you, he murmured softly. Aaron's eyes darted towards me for a fleeting moment before returning to Dominic. It seems to me that the moment has come for you to embark on a new journey. Wouldn't you agree? I parted my lips to speak. Yet Aaron raised a hand to silence me. It seems we have all settled into a certain ease with this situation. It lacks healthfulness. Dominic rose suddenly. The chair let out a harsh scrape against the floor. If you have a message to convey, simply express it. Aaron reclined in his chair, his demeanor icy. Very well. It seems the moment has arrived. My heart raced, yearning for a moment of truth from both of you as Aaron's gaze fixed intently on mine. The walls of the room appeared to close in on me as I struggled to articulate a way to ease the tension. Yet before I could utter a sound, Dominic advanced. Dominic advanced with purpose. He spoke with conviction, declaring that there was nothing left to discuss. Alice is not what she seems. She is trying to exert influence over us following our separation. Aaron squinted, pondering the reasons behind Alice's decision to entangle Bella in her fabrications. She is in a state of utter desperation. Dominic claimed she would stop at nothing to retaliate against me, even involving Bella in her schemes. It was simply the most effortless method to wound me. Aaron's gaze held steady, and for a fleeting instant, you anticipated that I would take Dominic's assertion at face value. Silence enveloped the room. Then Aaron rose, his motion measured and intentional. Perhaps it is, he concluded at last. Yet I remain unconvinced. Until that time arrives, I believe it would be wise for you to seek alternative accommodations. Dominic's gaze met mine, his eyes brimming with a question that lingered in the silence between us. I felt compelled to urge him to remain and confront this challenge side by side. Yet, I was acutely aware that it would only exacerbate the situation. It's fine, Dominic murmured softly. I shall proceed. The house seemed to echo with a profound emptiness in his absence. Aaron appeared content with Dominic's absence. Yet his wariness of me lingered, refusing to fade completely. Each day, I reached out to Dominic, our exchanges remaining succinct. Our exchanges were fleeting and tense. He had secured a modest apartment across town and was striving to concentrate on his work. Yet I could sense the irritation lacing his voice. "I despise this," he uttered one night. "Being apart from you and allowing her to triumph is but a fleeting moment," I declared, even as doubt lingered in my mind. Yet, the growing distance was starting to take its toll on my spirit. Just when I thought the situation couldn't worsen, Alice made the pivotal move. In the afternoon, as I was out running errands, Alice made her appearance at Aaron's office. Though she lacked concrete evidence, she possessed just enough of the narrative to plant seeds of uncertainty in his thoughts. Upon my return home, I found Aaron patiently awaiting me in the living room. "Take a seat," he commanded, his voice sharp and cold. My hands trembled in my lap as Alice approached me. He claimed she revealed everything to him, or at the very least, enough to cast doubt on what you've been sharing with me. "Aaron," I asserted swiftly, "she's not telling the truth." "Could it be that she is?" He broke. The atmosphere grew thick with tension, as if the very air was laden with unspoken truths. And the silence stretched on, an endless expanse of uncertainty. He rose to his feet and made his way to the door. "I'm leaving," he declared. "Don't bother calling me. Don't waste your time reaching out until you're prepared to share the truth with me." Aaron failed to return home that night, nor did he appear the following evening. I attempted to reach him by phone, yet he did not respond. The silence of the house enveloped me, and in that moment, I questioned whether I had indeed lost it all. Days later, Dominic arrived, his worry palpable as he crossed the threshold. "Are you all right?" he asked, drawing me into a close embrace. I confessed, uncertainty clouding my thoughts. He remained by my side throughout the night. For a fleeting instant, it seemed as though circumstances were on the mend. But the damage had already been done, and I realized that our lives would forever be altered.